Now for our story. It was the morning after Aunt Mary's return to Wakefield with Bill Meade and Mario Descari. The family had met them at the station when they arrived, and Bill had been persuaded to return to the Lane farmhouse for the night. The travelers had been tired after their trip and had given only the highlights of their experience in Chicago before retiring. But this morning at breakfast, Randy, Lefty, and Aunt Mary's niece, Peggy Douglas, had insisted on a full account. Now it is mid-morning. The household is scattered to its usual chores. In the kitchen, Peggy is washing up the dishes. Her fiancé, with a big white towel tied around his waist, is helping.
Don't bother about putting things in the cupboard, Bill. I can do that later.
Well, listen, honey. After the number of times we've done the dishes, I'd be a sap if I didn't know where things belong by now.
Poor Bill. You sound like the beginning of an abused husband.
Not a bit. Well, the last couple of days in Chicago, I would have liked nothing better than to be right here in Aunt Mary's kitchen doing just what we're doing now.
Well, maybe so, but it's not what I'd call a romantic occupation.
Darling, so long as you're involved in it with me, any occupation is romantic. And if I didn't have my hands full at the moment, I'd give you a hug and a kiss just to prove it.
Well, Bill, you could always put them down, you know.
You know, sometimes you get the most wonderful ideas.
Do I, Bill?
Gosh, the back of your neck is kissable.
If I didn't have my hands all wet, Bill, I'd hug you back.
Well, Peggy, you could always dry them, you know.
Sometimes you get the most wonderful ideas. You know, if we keep this up, we'll still be out here at dinner time.
I can't say I'd object. Oh, gosh, Peggy, I'm so pleased with the world this morning. Pleased with the world and you and Aunt Mary and not to mention Randy and Lefty.
And Mario Descari, Bill?
Sure, Mario, too.
You mean because he agreed to come home after all the trouble he caused?
Well, I know Mario feels pretty ashamed of the way he behaved. Why, even when I went to the hotel room where he was hiding and tried to reason with him, even then he was still insisting he believed all that poppycock about Carla and me.
Do you think he was bluffing at first? Or did he really mean it?
I'm not sure. At the time, I thought he was bluffing, but he was ashamed to give in, ashamed to admit that he was wrong. But then, if that was the case, what made him change afterwards?
Well, didn't you say this girl, this Anna something or other, went to see him later on?
Yeah.
Well, maybe she talked him into changing his mind.
Yeah, that's what Aunt Mary said. And yet, Peggy, it's very strange, because evidently she was pretty crazy about Mario.
Well, I must say, Bill, I'm a little provoked with Mario Descari at the present moment.
But why, darling? He's come home. Carla's forgiven him. Everything's going to be fine now.
Is it?
Well, sure.
But what about you, Bill? Us?
We're going to get married. That's what about us.
But that's just what I mean. Did Mario say anything about what he planned to do? After all, your name hasn't been clear just because Mario came home. People will think he just decided to forgive Carla. How are they going to know there wasn't anything to forgive? Bill, I don't want Wakefield believing those things about you.
But it won't be like that, Peggy.
But, Bill, did Mario apologize to you for what he put you through? On the way home, on the train, did you and he talk it over?
Well, no. To tell the truth, Mario and I had very little to say to each other on the way home.
Well, there you are. Seems to me he might at least have told you how sorry he was.
Poor guy. He probably wanted to, but couldn't get the words out. Give him time, honey. All he could think about was Carla.
I only hope Mario can make up to her for what she's been through.
Yeah. Hey, did she tell you the news?
What news, Bill?
Oh, well, if she didn't, maybe I better not say anything. But Aunt Mary told me, so I should think you'd know, too.
Oh, you mean about Carla's having a baby?
Yeah.
Yes, I knew about that. I wonder if Mario knows by now. It ought to make him feel terribly ashamed for what happened.
Oh, she must have told him right away. Yeah, we didn't say anything to him in Chicago. Carla made Aunt Mary promise not to mention it.
I can understand that. It's the way a woman would be bound to feel. She'd want a man to come back because he loved her, not out of pity.
Sure.
Well, I only hope Mario will settle down now and stop being so temperamental and hot-headed. If he's to have the responsibility of a family, he'd better grow up.
Give him a chance, baby. He's very penitent, believe me.
Well, if he is, Bill, I certainly hope he realizes he has a debt to pay.
A debt?
I mean, he's the only one who can put things straight so far as you're concerned. Your job and everything. I just hope he isn't so wrapped up in his own affairs that he forgets.
Oh, well, don't you worry about that. Things are going to come out all right. You wait and see.
But just the same, Bill, I'd feel a whole lot better if I knew what Mario intends to do about clearing your name and helping you get your job back.
At that same moment, Mario Descari had just walked into the bank at Wakefield, the Wakefield Savings and Trust owned by David Bowman, where Bill Meade had been employed until the Descari scandal had cost him his job. As the dark-haired young man walks through toward David's desk, he can hear an excited buzz of whispered comment. Curious eyes, some shocked, some surprised, follow him. Secretly watch as he pauses by the little wooden gate, leans over and says quietly,
Good morning, Mr. Bowman.
Good morning, Mario.
I guess you're kind of surprised to see me.
No, Mario. I talked to Mary Lane a little while ago. She told me you'd come back on the train with Bill Meade and her. Glad to see you.
Thanks. I'd like to have a little talk with you, Mr. Bowman. That is, if you can spare the time.
Why, of course, my boy. Come through the gate there.
Okay.
Sit down, Mario.
Thank you.
Yes, Mary told me you'd all come back. I was awfully glad to hear it. And I imagine you're very happy to be home again, aren't you?
Boy, am I. I still can hardly believe it, Mr. Bowman. You know, I belong here in Wakefield. If I ever had any doubts about it, I sure got rid of them when I was in Chicago.
Oh, I think once you've grown up in a town, no other place can ever seem quite so much like home to you.
That's right. Home. I know a lot of people around town must think I acted like an awful heel. I'll have a lot to live down, and I know it.
Well,
No, it's okay, Mr. Bowman. They're right if that's what they think. I made a terrible mess of things. My wife and myself. And for other people, too. That's why I came to see you first thing this morning. I want to do what I can to put things right.
I see.
Bill Meade worked for you quite a while, didn't he?
Yes, Mario. Ever since his release from the Army.
He did a good job, didn't he?
Yes, indeed. From the time he first took over the farm loan department, Bill has shown excellent judgment. He's made a fine showing, and I'm very proud of him. He doesn't approach his work mechanically, you see. He uses his knowledge of people. And he's made very few errors of decision.
I guess in a way the worst error Bill must have made was in regard to me when he gave me the loan. You know, it's a queer thing, Mr. Bowman. Bill and I happened to become friendly while we were making the arrangements. Well, Bill probably would never have lost his job here at the bank.
Oh, Mario, if one starts to retrace the reasons, the background for all the things that happen to people...
Sure, I know what you mean, Mr. Bowman. The big order trying to figure out what makes the world go round. But sometimes a guy can see clear as anything just how he's been responsible for things that happen. When it's like that, he's got to do what he can. Put things right.
Yes. If it's within his power, Mario.
That's what I wanted to ask you, Mr. Bowman. About Bill's job. I was wondering if it'd be possible for you to call a special meeting of the board of directors. Carla told me they're the people who asked Bill to resign. Is that right?
Yes, Mario. The board certainly had the last word.
That's why I want to talk to them as soon as possible. I'd like to straighten them out on a couple of ideas they must have. Do you think you can arrange it, Mr. Bowman?
Yes, Mario. I believe I can.
Bill Meade's done a lot for me, Mr. Bowman. And in return, well, you know. I'll never be able to make it up to him. Not to my own satisfaction. But there's one thing I can do. One thing I'm going to do.
Inwardly, David Bowman had doubts, but he saw no purpose in expressing them to Mario Descari. David was thinking if the board membership were the same as it had been in the past, Mario would probably succeed in bringing about Bill's reinstatement in his old job. Now, however, Ben Calvert was a member of the board. Ben, who hated Bill Meade passionately, viciously. Ben, who would probably do everything he could to oppose Mario in his attempt. For although David only suspected it, it was Ben who had started the trouble to begin with.